Well, good morning, everyone. I do want to start by saying thank you to Raina and the team for having me on today's webinar. I'm really thrilled to be joining you, and thank you to all of you for joining. I know that your time is very valuable, and there are many things you're tackling on this Friday. So we'll really look to make the most of your time with us, and you'll notice that today's conversation is titled HR Practitioners Are from Venus, Insurance Brokers Are from Mars, which is a play on the popular book. And truly, I know that it can feel that way sometimes, that these two groups of people are maybe worlds apart. And so my goal today is to share insights and tools for you to really bridge that gap and make the most of this partnership that may or may not already exist in your business and drive value as a business partner as you do, because I know that that's the goal. That's really what we're all looking to do. So you'll also notice that I referred to our time together this morning as a conversation, as that's really the hope for this forum. I know that you all have experienced that, who've come before or maybe have spoken before, and I know certainly that's what Raina has shared with me. So if you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat box. I know Raina and Brittany will be monitoring those, and we'll be able to go back and forth. And then you'll also see a few poll slides as we make our way through our conversation this morning. So I'd love to get your feedback on that as well as we navigate today's topics, and feel free to drop those answers in the chat as well. So you may be wondering, who is this person that I'm hearing from today? And I wanted to pause quickly to say, it's nice to meet you. I know if we were in person, we'd get to maybe shake hands, and that's not necessarily the case in today's COVID world. So wanted to pause and just help you get to know me a little bit better. My name is Taylor Bridges. I am an employee benefits consultant with a regional firm here in California, and we are called Bolton and Company. We have partners throughout the country, and our headquarters is based here. We cover both commercial lines as well as employee benefits. And my focus is really on partnering with employers, and HR professionals such as yourself to implement employee benefits programs that really meet the multifaceted needs of an organization today. So my background is in talent acquisition, employee engagement, and marketing, as Raina mentioned. And with those things, I am really passionate about culture and engagement and the way that those two pieces really drive success for employees and companies alike, in my experience and in the experience of our firm. So, humanizing that experience a little bit, I'm excited to spend this time with you this morning, and hopefully help you learn a bit about who I am to start us off. And as we jump in, I also want to lay out a few learning objectives that I'm hoping you'll walk away with from our time together. So the first is to gain a better understanding of Mars. How does the broker world work, and how can I leverage that understanding and knowledge? Learn how to objectively evaluate and measure broker performance. How do I know if my broker is doing a good job, and what are some metrics that I may be able to set for success? And then understand broker compensation and your options, as well as identify tools available to you through your broker. And this is really the core of our conversation today in terms of working with your broker as a true partner for you and the organization. And then finally, 3 new questions to ask your broker as you move into this year. So that first learning objective we're going to tackle is understanding Mars, that broker landscape. And so with that, let's dive in. Now, before we dive into Mars, we need to start with Venus, right? So this is you all, this is HR practitioners. And our population here on this planet is 1.4 to about every 100 employees. So that's 1.4 HR practitioners to 100 employees in the most recent study. And I'm sure that that sounds familiar to you, because you're probably juggling quite a bit of things that come with caring for so many people with maybe limited teams. Partners often that we see our HR practitioners work with are the CEO, the CFO, maybe the controller. These are some of those stakeholders and partners that are coming together to drive initiatives forward in the organization. And your local conditions can often be those talent wars, maybe resource challenge between time, staff, budget, technology. All of these things might be few and far between. And with that, there's also increasing responsibility. So those resources are maybe few and far between, and yet as HR continues to grow and our organizations get more and more, there's more meat to them, there's increasing responsibility on the plate of HR professionals to really meet those needs and kind of, rise to the new things that we find in today's workforce. which then brings us to Mars, and that's that insurance broker world. And the population here is 33,000 agencies and brokerages across the country. Bolton, I think we rank up there at number 65. So you can see there's some that are larger, there's some that are smaller, but there's quite a few partners that you might be interacting with depending upon where you are in the country. And our partners are really those attorneys, those human capital management specialists, CPAs even. And local conditions in this world or on this planet, if you will, is that it's an ever-changing market. There's technology needs and challenges as we become an increasingly digital workforce. And those things are overlapping with benefits more and more. And then delivering value. I mean, this looks different every year as the world changes and the workplace changes. And so brokers in this world are trying to figure out, how do we continue to deliver value and show up for our clients? So in some ways, it can feel like these two parties are a world apart, right? On the one hand, we have HR professionals who are rewarded when costs go down. HR service, support, and performance are the top priority here. And they're really focused on the welfare of the workforce. And at the end of the day, they need their broker for these key benefit offerings that are going to be in place for their people. On the other hand, you have the benefits broker. And in some ways, they can be rewarded when costs go up, right? That can mean more commission. Winning a new client relationship is really their top priority. And while, yes, they're focused on the employees, they're also really focused in on the welfare of the decision makers. You know, how are they doing? Where are things at? What can I assist them with? Are there any issues that are going on with my decision makers? And while, yes, the broker does need that HR partner, of course, they also need the buy-in of the CEO and the CFO. And so there's multiple relationships there to manage. And so really the goal is a true partnership here, right? So these two groups of people may seem worlds apart, and yet I think there is great opportunity to make this a really unique and powerful partnership for both parties, so that broker partner is really able to deliver value for the benefits, yes, and beyond. And so that's what we're gonna take a look at here this morning or this afternoon, depending upon where you are. So this brings us to our second learning objective, which is evaluating broker performance. So how is your current partner doing? And I know we talked about what the goal is, which is that true partnership, but I want to pause as well and say, let's tackle the why. You know, why does this matter? Why is this something that we're spending time on this morning? And that's because you, as the HR practitioner, you manage a lot: employee benefits, compliance, compensation, communication, et cetera. The list goes on. You all know that. I'm preaching to the choir here. And oftentimes you have 10 other things on your plate at any given moment. So really what this boils down to is that your time is valuable. And if you know the ways that your broker partner can really help you in achieving your goals, not only for benefits, but for your greater HR, organization as a whole, then that really helps to make the most of your time and the most of those goals that you're looking to accomplish. And this is where I'd love if you'd kind of drop some thoughts in the chat if you have any. I'm curious to learn, beyond managing your cost, how does your broker deliver the most value to your business? Are there any other ways that they do? And I look at feedback there. If you guys don't mind popping on if you're not presenting, that would be so wonderful. Thanks so much. So we did poll some of you beforehand actually on a similar question, and that was how often you're meeting with your broker. And answers range from everything from weekly to monthly to annually. I meet with them. So that's really going to have us kind of dive into this next option in terms of items to consider. Raina or Brittany, I'm curious, just because I don't have that chat pulled up in front of me, is there anything that kind of came through in there that you're seeing on this particular poll?
So outside of what I pre-shared, no. And I wasn't able to get a poll implemented here.
No problem. So we're going to jump right in here to kind of those items to consider on this point and kind of be thinking about that last question, as we're talking about this. The first item to consider here is, how many months of the year are you receiving support from your broker? Is it 3 months? Is it just at that time of, renewal and open enrollment? And that's really the only time that you touch base and the rest of the year kind of goes by before you connect again? Or is it, every 12 months? Is it that, you're reaching out to your broker, you're in connection with them throughout the year to kind of talk about strategic goals and, touch base on issues that employees may be having with their benefits to seek their assistance in getting those remedied? Or maybe it's somewhere in between, but I would encourage you that your broker can be a resource to you all throughout the year. So if you are on that, annually meeting point, or that 3 months of the year is really when you're in connection with them, consider going back to them and finding out how else they might be able to support you and how you might be able to kind of strategically connect throughout the year. Which really brings me to the second point, and that's what kind of support is extended to you. Is this policy only, where really they're getting you set up with your different insurance policies for the employees and they're lending their expertise and advisement on that point, but then that's kind of the end of that piece of the relationship? Or are they able to get you connected to other HR resources around, compliance or your technology, or maybe wellness, or maybe you're having some sort of legal issue and they have a contact that they can connect you with in that space to get you support? So that's another item for consideration there. And then this last point here is, are you experiencing reactive service or a strategic partnership? So are you really only hearing from your benefits broker when you reach out with a question, or are they checking in on you throughout the year to say, hey, we're really hearing about this in the marketplace. Is that something that is relevant for you and your industry or your organization? Or, hey, I've seen a couple things come through on XYZ. I just wanted to check in on that. How's that been going? Have you made any progress on that? And how can I help? So those are a few points to kind of consider in terms of shifting that relationship with your broker partner. Which brings us to our next learning objective here, and that is understanding broker compensation. And the reason that I put this in is because honestly, so often we're asked by clients or potential clients, how do you get paid? You're helping me with all of this stuff. I'm confused how you're getting compensated for this. And really, our goal at Bolton is transparency. So you may or may not have had this conversation with your broker, but really, I can speak from our aim is really to equip you all as HR practitioners with knowledge and understanding around how this process works, so that you can use that knowledge to inform business decisions for your specific organization. So most commonly, brokers are paid a commission of your premium percentage for serving in an advisory capacity to you on your benefits year over year. Now, I will say commission isn't the only form of payment that's available out there for your broker, though it is certainly most standard. So likely this might be what you have in place right now. And what this looks like each month is that when you pay your premium to your insurance carrier, the carrier then pays a percentage back to your broker. Right? So your broker isn't paid until that premium is paid monthly and taken care of. And then when it is, the carrier takes care of paying that out on your behalf. And what those standard commission schedules would look like would be around 5% of your medical premium, 10% of your dental and vision, 15% for life and disability, and then there can be a wide range here, but let's just say it's 20 on voluntary, give or take. And the reason for that span is because if you think about it, your medical premium is so much higher, right, than the dental or vision or life or disability. So the commission percentage correlates there. And I mentioned a moment ago that commission isn't, the only option. So the other way that your broker can be compensated is that you have the option in the large group space specifically, which would be 100 lives and above. And that's the large group directed by the carriers is 100 lives and above. You can actually set up a monthly fee schedule in place of the commission. And really what this means is that as opposed to, the commission changing or the payment to your broker changing depending upon if your premium is going up or if it's going down, it's going to stay the same every time. And really some people would argue that that means that the broker's not incentivized by, what's going on with your premium. They're really just there to be your partner for whatever is going to be best. Now, I will say that this does come with an additional administrative burden. This means that you're typically paying out your broker directly every month in addition to the carrier. That's not something that the carrier is taking care of for you. So there is that element to consider. But it's important that you know that you do have options there, and you can always discuss that with your broker and kind of negotiate what that fee schedule might be on a monthly basis as an alternative to commission if you feel that that would be a better fit for your organization. So again, if you're curious about what this might currently look like now, what you currently have going on, I wanted to just let you know quickly that there is something called a 5500 form. And maybe you're familiar with this, but maybe you're not. It's essentially a tax form that your broker files on your behalf. And the goal of this tax form is really transparency, that your broker is filing, what's going on every year, how many people are enrolled in each plan, what the plans are, what the total premium is that's getting paid out, and then even on there, depending upon the form, what the commission is as well. So it's public information. This is something that you can absolutely access. And I do have some resources I can send out after the fact on websites where you can find this if you don't just automatically know where this would be within kind of your business practice. And again, this is something that your broker typically files on your behalf. So if you don't know where it is, you can definitely check in with them to ensure that you're in compliance and have that taken care of. And really the goal here is, why are we talking about this? We're talking about this because the idea, and every firm is a little different, but the idea and the hope would be that in the commission that's coming back to that broker, there's some value that's coming back to you. So it's not just that, they set up your plans and you pay out the commission and that's the end of it. The idea is that the reason that you have your broker in place is because, not only are they coming alongside of you in an advisory capacity to help you get set up with the right carrier partner and the right plans, they're supporting you through the open enrollment process, they're answering employee questions and problem solving as benefits related issues come up throughout the year. But there may be other resources at play that your broker can offer you in reinvesting those commission dollars back into you. So that's what we're going to talk about quickly here. And you might be asking, what might some of those tools be that you can tap into? I'd like to kind of explore that with you right now in this next section. And so one poll that we did pull out on this is, what's your top HR pain point outside of benefits, or maybe within it, maybe it is benefits, but what might that be? And we did have a couple responses come in, and that was everything from their HRIS system to maybe legal or employee relations, and that these are some of the pain points that can be top of mind for HR practitioners. And if you have others, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we can talk through those as well. But the idea here is that you as an HR practitioner are dealing with benefits and beyond, right? So what are ways that your broker can support you on those? Well, as a case study to kind of show you, again, just speaking from my experience at Bolton, here are some of the areas beyond just setting up your benefits plans that we support clients on year over year. So some ideas for you on what that could look like. This is everything from assisting you with your cost control, so benefit plan auditing, annual market surveys, those renewal negotiations, benchmarking you, to communication issues, maybe especially around your benefits. But those custom brochures or open enrollment presentations, maybe even employee surveys throughout the year as you're wanting to know what's landing and what's not. This is something that your broker might be able to help you with. Compliance as it relates to benefits. This is something that we support all clients on across the board, as well as wellness. We actually have a wellness consultant in-house that works for Bolton and works with our clients in implementing wellness programs and finding out what might be relevant to your particular population. What's going to really incentivize them and help them live that holistic, whole and well life. And that can be everything from plan design and modeling to the actual implementation or those incentive programs I mentioned. And then lastly here, technology. So again, another resource that we have in-house that many brokerages do is a technology consultant. And so yes, this is to assist you with finding the right fit for your benefits administration system as everything has moved so digitally. And, you have other human capital management needs, right? Maybe in payroll or performance management, things of that nature. And so I know in our case, our tech consultant can actually assist you in the overall RFP process in order to determine who might really be the best fit for you so that you ensure that that investment that you're making is going to be what you hope it's going to be. And it's going to meet the needs that you're actually trying to problem solve for. So this is just an example of some of the ways that your broker might be able to support you in an ongoing capacity. Which kind of brings me, to this next point here, and Cheryl had alluded to this earlier. I'm curious, what's your top or most engaging benefit that you offer? That's something to kind of think through or drop in the chat box if you'd like to. And really why I ask this is because while medical and dental and vision obviously continue to be so important, and in COVID, more than ever, we've seen the telehealth utilization skyrocket, and people are accessing this care. It's become central to people's wellness. There are also other things that have risen to the surface in this time that I think have been around for a while and yet are just compounded with the workplace that we find ourselves in the last year that we've all experienced. And so with that, your broker as a partner for you can really bring innovative support to the table. And what that means is that they can connect you with partners beyond just that medical, dental, vision, life disability to serve the needs that your people might be facing. Or may have. So this is everything from fertility and family support, as an example, things like personalized maternity care, on-demand specialists that your employees can speak with, backup and primary adult or child care, especially in today's work world. Gosh, working parents, what a world as Raina's experiencing today. So there are lots of resources that can offer your employees support there, and that you as an employer can offer either that you're taking care of or they're voluntary for your folks to take advantage of. Mental wellness and behavioral health, right? That's that EAP, that is employee assistance program. So that allows your employees to call in and get connected with a behavioral or mental, wellness professional who can assist them with talking through whatever it is that they might be tackling. And this can be, everything from major life changes that are going on, such as, loss or you name it, to maybe it's just compounding stress in this new work world that we find ourselves in, and all the new things that they're having to juggle under one roof. They can actually speak with someone to help them work through that more productively, and then be able to bring a more healthy, whole self to work, right? Which we know also increases productivity. So win all around for all parties involved. This can also be things like on-demand access to coaches and therapists. So similar to what we've all experienced with telehealth this last year for, talking to your doctors, you can now speak to everything from coaches to licensed psychologists or psychiatrists that can assist you with your targeted needs, to even things like meditation libraries to help people kind of in that more maybe front end space of mental wellness in terms of keeping themselves well and being plugged into practices that are helping them to be, healthy and whole mentally. Financial wellness is another area that we see a lot of interest around and a lot of questions come up on, especially pre-COVID. And now I think COVID has just added to that, right? And that can be everything from student loan contributions. We know that that's a huge issue right now for so many across the country. Identity theft protection, maybe that's something that could be really meaningful for your organization. Or even education tools. You might be able to either, offer or get them plugged in with full financial wellness suites that will help them with everything from learning to budget to meeting specific financial goals to maybe paying off that student debt or buying a home or a car or whatever it might be. So there's a number of different areas that your broker may be able to bring expertise and resources your way in terms of their network and those that they've been able to connect other employers with and have seen implemented and really be successful. Then the last piece here is maybe you really have a multi-generational workforce. So maybe you're looking at alternative ways for digital and video communication support around your benefits offerings or other initiatives that are going on in your organization. App-based benefits wallets. This allows for everybody to have all of their benefits information in the palm of their hand, right? Access to it right there, all in one place, keeping it really easy and simple. Even benefit selection guidance. So this is something that basically personalizes the experience for every single person who's logging in to select their benefits each year. And this can range, in different offerings that have this, but essentially it would ask you, I'll use myself as an example, it would ask me, Taylor, how often are you visiting the doctor each year? Are you anticipating extending your family this year? Are there any prescriptions that you're regularly taking? And then it would basically be able to take all of this information, my own personal information about how often I'm interacting with the healthcare system, and it will pair me with what might be the best fit for me in terms of the plans that are offered by my employer. It would also help me understand if something like an FSA or an HSA would be meaningful for me and how much money that could help me save. So there's a number of different things that this can help with in terms of getting your people plugged into the plans that are going to be most meaningful for them and their needs. And so with that, I want to kind of, wrap up this more formal part of the presentation, if you will, with 3 questions that you can go back and ask your broker the next time that you connect. And the first one here would be, how can you help me accomplish my top 3 goals this year? So again, so often what we're talking about, right, is, okay, what are the plans we need? When are we going to look to do open enrollment this year? Matt, this is a little clunky. Can we do that different? Certainly, those conversations are important. And I would encourage you to say, hey, here are the things that are on my plate this year that are taking up a lot of my brain space. Do you have connections or the ability to get me, resource around these things so that I can really smooth sail through these and be set up for greater success and contribute to my organization, and our partnership can be that much more valuable? The second question here would be, where is my strategic service plan if this is something that you don't already have? So, where can I see laid out how often we're going to plan to connect throughout the year and have some strategic conversations around what's going on in the organization and how the benefits are going to help kind of frame that and support that? And the third piece here would be, how can you help us grow? So I would encourage you to share with your benefits broker where you see the company going in the next few years. That really helps them to think long-term with you about what's going to make sense in terms of maybe making a change to a different carrier partner, or maybe considering new plans that are going to be more impactful for, an employee population group that's going to expand out of certain states, or adding in additional innovative benefit offerings that are going to be really meaningful for the workforce now and in 3 years. So again, I would encourage you to have those more long-term conversations so that your broker can more appropriately support you. And so with that, I want to thank you for your time this morning, your attention, and kind of some of what I had to share. I've included here, my phone number, my email address, in case you want to jot those down or want to shoot me any questions after this morning. I'm happy to connect and be a resource. And you can also find me on LinkedIn as well. I know, Raina's tagged me, and the team's done an incredible job at just highlighting that there in that space too. So in case that would be meaningful for you, I'd be happy to connect. And I do my best to share resources that I find on there as often as I possibly can, because I just think we're stronger and we're better when we do that together. So with that, I'll stop sharing my screen so that we can have a little bit of dialogue and answer any questions that may have come up. And if not, then, that's okay as well.
Thank you so much. That was really good and interesting. I have a couple of questions related to personal experiences with brokers.
Yeah.
But that fee schedule option, I think, is interesting in addition to the commission. So I have been talking to somebody, and and this was something that I had way back when I was doing benefit administration. I would have to do the monthly audits of the invoices. So compare the invoices to, how many terminations we had and who was supposed to be added, and, that type of thing. And so I had to kind of finagle a way to do that. But then through talking with my broker way back when, they were able to work with our third-party administrator where we did, the enrollment for benefits. And they were actually able to do those audits for us. And then I might just sort of do a quick check just to make sure they were auditing correctly. So fast forward to today or yesterday, and somebody was sharing with me that they are just having a heck of a time, and that their broker, in fact, is not very helpful. And it's a complete shock to me to hear that. And especially because, as I say, the reason that you're here today is because people have asked me, can you do these audits for us and see how competitive we are and so forth? And yes, I can, but that's not, you shouldn't be spending your money on me when you already are paying the money. So the question then comes to, when it comes to, I guess I don't want to be specific about the benefit auditing component, but why don't more brokers do what it sounds like you all do, which is on a more proactive basis, reach out and ask these questions? And why don't they do that?
Sure. I think it's a great question. I would say, to your point about the benefit auditing, I know that does range brokerage to brokerage firm. And really the main reason that ranges is because there is liability that's involved. So sometimes it's more from that standpoint that brokers may not be engaging in that piece specifically. However, they can typically, again, get you connected with a resource who may be able to assist with that process. And my hope would be, that they're reaching out to help you solve the problem, even if they can't specifically do it internally for a liability reason. But there is the opportunity to connect you with problem solving that somehow. And I guess to answer your question, Raina, I would just say I think it's just a little bit different. Some firms really have that consultative approach and how they're looking to partner with clients, but I would say that's probably evolved as the industry has evolved and as HR has evolved. At this point, rates are rates. I mean, for the most part, all benefits brokers can go out and access the same rates for all the carriers. So the question becomes, how else do we add value for you? How else do we partner with our clients to really be a trusted advisor for them? And I think, some firms have really evolved quickly in that and others have not. And it may also even be on a broker by broker style basis. The innovative benefits space is just something I'm personally really passionate about because of my background. Other brokers, maybe not so much, and maybe there's some other things that they're really kind of leading with in terms of those relationships and their expertise. So I think it's a matter of, getting to know your firm style, getting to know your broker style, and figuring out what might be a good fit for you from there. That's a great question. And Cheryl, I noticed in the chat your question about, if those broker contracts include a service level agreement element. So really, actually, the broker of record letter is very simple. And the reason why is because you can actually change your broker at any point in the year. So you're not locked in. I mean, you could change your broker every month if you wanted to, and that would probably be very wild, but nonetheless, it could be done. So the idea there is that, you've kind of understood what the firm's capabilities are, what the broker's capabilities are, how they tend to do business and partner with you as a client. And then from there, you're granting them access as your broker of record through the carrier partner. So the carrier partner knows you're the person who's advising them and you're the person who's going to be receiving that commission when the payment comes in. Obviously, they can be set up with a number of different elements to them, but I would say most generally, it's that very simple broker of record letter or that kind of fee schedule outline. And then it's really just in the approach in terms of getting clear on that ahead of time with your broker on how often they look to meet with you and how often they're conversing back and forth and what they're sort of bringing to the table, because every broker can be a little different on that.
Thanks for that. I inquired because that type of feature was part of a different type of an agreement I had with a vendor in HR, and what is it? It not legitimizes, but it puts in writing those nuances to customer service.
Mm-hmm.
That sometimes it's almost like a prenup, right? It's like, I know we love each other, but let's be clear on what it is. And you've invested too much time in the relationship to find out 3 months later, oh, this isn't a person that calls me back, or this isn't quite what I expected. And you never know what you get until you're into a relationship. But if there's some time sensitive or it matters where your executives absolutely have to have quality and feedback, I would lock it in and tie it to their compensation. So that there's that extra incentive to do that customer service thing. And hopefully you're with a broker who's just got tons of, eagerness and conscientiousness and do all those things. But all types of vendors need to be given some guardrails on those soft expectations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what I would say is, that is where, to your point, the broker world can be interesting. I mean, similar to when you're going to go out and buy a home and you may work with an agent, and it's really that they're advising you through the process. And at any point, you can switch to somebody else if it's not working out and if it's not going well. And I know obviously, I mean, to some degree that can be an intricate process, but I would also say there's actually less disruption in changing brokers than we would probably want you to know. I mean, the employees aren't having much of an experience with your broker. They may when you're coming out for open enrollment, or if they're really getting great service, then certainly they might recognize it when that's not happening, when they have claims issues. However, it's really you as the HR practitioner that's having the most frequent experience with your broker. So I would say that's the lens to keep in mind, because again, your broker is really that back end partner to you as the HR practitioner. So if you don't feel like you're getting the right service, to your point, Cheryl, then I would encourage you to see about making that switch, understanding that really it's a fairly simple process and it doesn't cause much disruption with the employees, especially if it means that you're going to be receiving better service and, better resources, and ultimately that's going to serve the employees better in the long run, because you're going to be less stretched than trying to juggle as many things as HR professionals do.
Well, I agree, but changing should always be a last recourse. I don't want to go into something thinking that, I could always change, because this is one of, like you said, I think it was 10 or 100 other things that are going on. That's one less 100%. Thing you have to think about, then, because I know hitting the exit button is an option, but I don't want to do that as a first recourse.
Of course, yes. And let me clarify, loyalty with your broker, number one, in terms of the strength of that relationship we're talking about, right? That partnership is really what you're looking to create. And so to your point, Cheryl, yes, I feel like going back to have these conversations, that's why I wanted to include those 3 questions, is the best place to start, because just because you're not having great service, if you're constantly changing from broker to broker, you aren't able to develop that partnership that we're talking about. You're not able to have that long-term sustained experience where your broker really gets to know your organization and your people in and out. So being able to go back and have these conversations and see sort of what progress can be made, I think is always the first best way to go. And then I more so include it just because I think sometimes when we talk to potential clients or even clients, they're so hesitant because they think that there's more to the process, or that it's really disruptive. And I just like to educate around the process is actually fairly simple, so it doesn't have to feel like it's the same as implementing a new HCM platform, for instance. If you're at the point where you're like, I'm not getting the service that I need, what am I going to do? I think that's where I just would encourage you that you can get access to it relatively painlessly at the point that you need it, once you've really explored that most deeply with your current broker partner. So the goal is never, to be clear, to just up and change. I think the goal is just to say, how do we go back and build relationship and really utilize all that might be available in there to offer.
Great, thanks so much.
Yeah.
And, sort of circling back to, again, the why you're here is the people that I have interacted with didn't even know that there was the option to reach out to other than for open enrollment, right? Like that's what their primary interaction is with their brokers. And I just think that is so unfortunate. And, because I've not been in the benefits world for so long, I simply forgot. But when I first started, I was privileged enough to have a brokerage firm that cared about they were the ones who educated me in and out on LOAs. They were the ones who helped me to figure out that you have a third-party administrator that can do these things for you. In fact, they also, one of the questions I had is around that EAP lunch and learn. I worked really closely with the brokers to say, what can we do to get EAP? And it was around financial wellness. It was around, mostly that was what we did was, the financial wellness. But that's the part that I go, whose job is it to teach the practitioner that they have the option to reach out to their brokers? And should it be more proactive from the broker side? But how do you marry the two? How do you get that to actually happen? That's the part that mystifies me.
Sure. Absolutely. And I'm grateful to see that, I think, more often in our industry now, those capabilities, presentations, if you will, are a more regular part of the process where brokers are sharing with potential clients what all they're capable of offering, so that there's that point of reference. And even throughout the year, if you're meeting with your broker strategically, like I know at Bolton, typically that's a time where we come out to our clients and we're talking through the benefits, yes, and we're talking about, hey, just as a reminder, here are all those other things that we can help you with just in case. Because, I mean, you all know it's the same as putting all the benefits out in front of your people at one point in the year, and it can be information overload. And so they're only retaining some of it. And so if you can introduce or remind throughout the year, there's probably higher engagement with those because they're actually in a headspace to be able to soak more of that in. So the idea there is that hopefully your broker, in meeting with you throughout the year, can remind you of other things that they're capable of offering at those other points when you're not so like in the thick of just trying to make open enrollment happen and get all of these, enrollments into the system, right? And so, yes, I think that's really insightful, Raina. And I know, Leah, you as well had kind of mentioned your experience there. So the last piece I saw in the chat as well from you, Cheryl, I wanted to speak to really quickly is that innovative broker support. So yes, to answer your question, if I'm understanding it correctly, that can absolutely be part of the plug and play that's sponsored by HR. Or by the company, I should say. So like, for instance, one of the fertility and family planning vendors that we work with often that's incredible is a company called Maven. They offer everything from fertility support to maternity care to postpartum. So now they actually offer parenting tracks, and that gets people connected with childcare for their, adults or children in the workplace. And that's something that essentially the employer can sponsor on behalf of anybody who's needing to elect in to use that benefit. And it's got kind of a set price to it for each person who's going to utilize it. So it's not something that, has to be for every single person, but it's on that case by case basis. And obviously each innovative benefit can range. That's just one example. I know there's also one called Cancer Guardian that helps get folks set up almost preemptively with knowledge about what their genomics might be and what they might be predisposed to. And that can be implemented in not only employer sponsored capacity, it can also be implemented in a voluntary capacity so that folks could enroll in that so that they have access to that information. And then it also would provide, should something ever happen down the line, one-on-one advocate care for them and someone who will come and transcribe notes from the doctor and things like that. So wide range is just the example I'm hoping to make, and that there can be different levels of how employers might be sponsoring or integrating those into the benefits plan. Anything else that kind of was burning in anybody's mind that I can help shed some on?
One question that I have, and I'm just trying to fill space as well as actually ask the question. There's certain partnerships that brokerages might have, for example, with different compensation surveys, or I don't know if that's the right way to say it. So how would someone know that? I guess you would only know that if you asked the question. Do most brokerages have that type of partnership? So whether it's with like a Towers, Wilson Towers, whatever that one is, I don't remember the exact name of the survey, sorry.
Those Towers spots.
And I feel like, Mercer has its own survey, but does Bolton have a survey that they, or a partnership that they have related to compensation? So.
Great question. Yes, so we do have a compensation. We actually have a few different compensation consultants that we work with, so that based on what the need is for the client, we can pair them with the right fit. And then we're also partnered with Milliman, which is the largest actuarial firm in the country. So we do have an in-house underwriter, but we partner additionally with Milliman just because they are the source for actuarial data across the country. I mean, even the carriers get their data from this source. So we pull benchmarking information from them on behalf of our clients, and they have more integrated resources as well that we can tap into on clients' behalf, again, just pending upon the needs. So I think that's just a big part of our approach, is understanding like what's the need here of our client and how do we get them connected to the right resource. And sometimes that's internal, and then sometimes that's actually going to be better served by somebody externally. Great question, though, Raina. Yes, that's absolutely another resource and another area that a broker can help you in.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions that they might have? Like maybe not even as an HR practitioner, but just as a employee, do I have access to? Is that even something that I should be thinking about? And if you don't, I'm sort of asking the question, right? So as an employee, do I have access to, or do I always go to my HR people? Let's just assume my HR people don't know the answer. Is there somebody I can reach out to? What does that look like?
Absolutely. So again, this is on a broker by broker basis. So it'd be worth inquiring with your broker. And I would also say it's probably more commonplace in what I've seen that your broker is going to have a dedicated service person or even a dedicated team or hotline that your employees can call into. So if they have a question that you don't know the answer to or they need additional assistance with, they're able to call into that number so that they can get assistance from the broker in whatever issue that they might be having. So absolutely, that's like, I guess, typically that's something that your broker can help with. Again, I know across the board it can differ a little bit. And I would say it's definitely something worth inquiring about because it can certainly be an option. And I guess along those lines, as you were asking that question, Raina, another thing that came to mind that might be insightful for you all is, and maybe you're already abreast on this knowledge, just in case, through your current carriers. So let's say that you're partnered with Anthem and Guardian and Mutual of Omaha, whoever it might be. Typically, your carriers have value-added programs that you have access to as a customer of theirs, and that's free of cost. So, for instance, I know that as an Anthem member, you would have access free of cost to an app called MyStrength, which is all around mental health and wellness. For Kaiser, you have free access to an app called Calm, which typically you would have to pay for if you're just going to it in the App Store. So there are a number of programs like this through the different carriers that are worth just exploring, either through your broker. Obviously, they can typically get you connected and aware of what those programs might be. Sometimes they may even be directly on the carrier website. Certainly, though, that's something that, I mean, at least again, in my experience as your broker, we're typically looking to educate on, because those programs can either, change, or they'll add new ones as the years go on. I mean, some of them can even be if you've just recently made a change to a carrier. I know last year, I think Blue Shield was doing that for all of the groups who had joined them in that last year. They were giving all of the employees access to a free Sunbasket, like meal delivery service that could be delivered to their homes. And that's something that you could send out to your employees as kind of, a fun informational moment. So it can be everything from that to like those more connected resources around mental wellness, to fitness and health. So there's typically a number of those programs as well that you'd have access to through your current carrier.
Thank you so much. This has been very insightful.
Great.
And I'm glad to be able to say that even though from the beginning of my career and then in the middle section, but now sort of, I'm not ending my career, but where I am right now, that there are brokers that value the relationship with their clients, because when you experience that middle of the road, and you have to do the finding and the digging and the what have you, it's nice to know that it hasn't completely gone by the wayside, and that brokerages like yours still exist. Because I think that team that I worked with, many years ago, the firm has changed. They've sort of dissipated and, gone their own ways. That it still exists, just that team itself has changed. So thank you for what you do and what Bolton does. And thank you for being here today.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you guys for all of your wonderful questions and for being so engaged in this topic. Hopefully it was helpful. You know, I have come from talent and employee engagement, and I know how much is on your plate. So the more resources, hopefully, that I can offer, the better. So, and thanks for hanging out on a Friday.
Definitely super helpful.
Yes, sorry, Brittany. We're going to, as we mentioned at the beginning, post this on our website, and then probably, well, that doesn't matter. We're going to post it, and I also wanted to share that next month, is it next month? So next month, normally we have a speaker, and what's the topic for next month? It's remote, it's managing the remote workforce.
Mm-hmm. Or return to work policy, just kind of discussing it all.
Yeah, and we don't have a speaker lined up just yet for that. So we may do it more of an open forum from the perspective of what are you experiencing? What types of things are you putting into place? What are you hearing, et cetera? And then in April, we have somebody coming on who's going to talk about succession planning. And then in May, which is part of why I think Cheryl kind of brought up the EAP thing, but in May, we're doing a fundraiser, and it's on mental health awareness. So just kind of keep an eye out on stuff related to that. So if you can come and participate, it's free to be there, and just look for information on that. But those are the couple of things that we've got coming up through May. Yeah, so thank you. And let's see. Looks like everybody's been happy with what we've had to share today.
Yes, this was good.
Yes, it was great.
Thank you.
So no questions from the peanut gallery?
Yes, thank you so much for having me and hanging out this Friday. I really appreciate you all inviting me to be a part of this group. It's been wonderful.
Thank you, Taylor.
Yes, thank you. Have a good weekend, everybody.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.